ARYNA Sabalenka eases into Australian Open third round. World number 1 ARYNA Sabalenka eased into the third round of the Australian Open after beating Chinese qualifier Bai Zhuoxuan, Melbourne. World number 1 ARYNA Sabalenka eased into the third round of the Australian Open after beating Chinese qualifier Bai Zhuoxuan 6-3, 6-1 in 32 minutes on Wednesday. It was a first meeting between Sabalenka and former world number 83 Bai, who went through the ringer last year with injuries and arrived in Melbourne. Ranked world number 702. Wednesday's win marked Sabalenka's 25th singles match win as world number 1 and made her the sixth player since 2000 to achieve the feat, following Serena Williams, Lindsay Davenport, Justine Henin, Ash Barty and Iga Swiatek. Meanwhile, Alina Svitolina continued her hot start to the 2026 season with a second-round 7-5, 6-1 win over Linda Klimovicova. She'll face another new opponent, Diana Schneider, in the third round, and it is the first guaranteed seeded match of the tournament. Schneider saved 2 match points against Australian wildcard Talia Gibson in a comeback win, 3-6, 7-5, 6-3. Coco Gauff, however, smoothly advanced to the third round of the women's singles at the 2026 Australian Open, demonstrating an assertive performance on Wednesday at Margaret Court Arena in Melbourne Park. The world number 3 secured her 251st WTA win, just 2 days after achieving her 250th career victory in the Grand Slam's opening round. The two-time Grand Slam champion defeated Olga Danilovic in straight sets, securing the win with scores of 6-2, 6-2 in 1 hour and 17 minutes. Gauff delivered a commanding performance at Margaret Court Arena, quickly asserting her dominance by winning 5 straight games in the first set. Pulling Danilovic from side to side, the 21-year-old created space on the court with powerful shots, breaking serve to win the set 6-2 despite a late rally from her opponent. The second set repeated this pattern, with the third seed capitalizing on unforced errors to lead 3-0. Danilovic tried her best to re-engage in the match, but Gauff's quick return and anticipation gave her a vital advantage to secure the win. The third round will feature an All-American matchup, with Gauff set to face Hailey Baptiste in what will be their second career meeting and first since 2023. 17th seed Victoria Mboko is through to the third round of her maiden Australian Open after a straight sets win over American Katie McNally in Melbourne on Wednesday. The result equals her best performance at a Grand Slam, matching her third-round appearance at Roland Garros last year. When third-round matches kick off on Friday, the talented right-hander will step onto court for a first-time meeting with Clara Tauson, the 14th seed who overcame Polina Kudermetova 6-3, 3-6, 7-5. Agencies. ARYNA Sabalenka eases into the Australian Open third round. The Melbourne sun had barely softened when ARYNA Sabalenka stepped onto the court, racket swinging loosely at her side, shoulders squared to the heat and the moment. The Australian Open has a way of magnifying everything, the light, the noise, the expectations, and yet Sabalenka moved through it as if she had been here all along, as if the tournament's vastness were simply another familiar room. From the first ball, there was a sense of inevitability. Not inevitability born of arrogance or ease, but of purpose. Sabalenka's game has never been shy. It announces itself. The serve cracks like a starting pistol, the ground strokes land with the authority of punctuation marks. On this day, though, there was also patience. Power with a pause. She wasn't rushing to dominate, she was building it, point by point, breath by breath. The Australian Open is often described as a test of endurance, and not without reason. The heat presses down, the rallies stretch, and the mind is asked to endure as much as the body. Sabalenka has learned that lesson over seasons of hard courts and hard losses. In easing into the third round, she showed a player who understands that winning early rounds is not about spectacle alone, but about conservation, of energy, of emotion, of belief. Her opponent tried to disrupt the rhythm, to pull Sabalenka out of her comfort zone with changes of pace and direction. For a time, rallies lengthened, and the crowd leaned in, sensing the possibility of resistance. Sabalenka answered not by swinging harder, but by choosing better. She stepped inside the baseline when the opportunity appeared, rolled heavy topspin when margins mattered, and trusted her footwork to carry her into position rather than forcing the strike. There was a quiet evolution visible in these exchanges. The Sabalenka of earlier years might have gone for the line, might have tried to end the point in one thunderous blow. This Sabalenka allowed the point to breathe. When the opening came, she took it, decisively, but only then. The result was tennis that felt controlled without being constrained, aggressive without being reckless. The serve, always a cornerstone of her game, set the tone. It wasn't just about speed, it was about placement and intent. Wide serves opened the court, body serves jammed the return, and the first ball after the serve often carried the weight of a pre-written plan. Each hold of serve felt like a small statement. I am in charge here. Between points, Sabalenka's demeanor told its own story. There were no exaggerated gestures, no unnecessary looks toward the box. Instead, a steady rhythm, towel, breath, bounce, suggested a player locked into her process. It is in these moments that champions often reveal themselves, not in the roar after a winner, but in the calm that follows. As the match progressed, the outcome began to tilt unmistakably in her favor. The rally shortened, the errors shifted sides, and Sabalenka's presence grew larger with each game. The crowd, appreciative of clean, assertive tennis, responded in kind. Applause followed winners not just for their power, but for their precision. Easing into the third round does not mean coasting, and Sabalenka's performance made that distinction clear. There was effort here, and intention, and respect for the challenge. What made it look easy was not a lack of resistance, but the clarity with which she met it. She played as someone who knows where she wants to go in this tournament, and understands that every step matters, even the ones that appear smooth. When the final point arrived, it felt less like an ending and more like a transition. Sabalenka acknowledged the crowd, gathered her gear, and walked off with the same composed stride she had carried onto the court. The job was done, efficiently and convincingly, but the story was clearly still unfolding. The Australian Open is long, and the draw only tightens from here. There will be tougher tests, louder moments, and nights when the margins feel thinner. But in this early round performance, ARYNA Sabalenka offered a reminder of why she is considered one of the sport's most formidable forces. Not just because she can hit harder than almost anyone else, but because she now knows when not to. In Melbourne, under the unrelenting sky, she didn't just win a match. She set a tone, calm, confident, and quietly commanding, as she moved into the third round, exactly where she intended to be.